So this is my 2012 Honda Accord daily driver, and it appears that we have a bad right rear strut. So why do I feel we have a bad right rear strut? Well, in this particular case, I started hearing what I would describe as a light banging noise in the right rear corner going over bumps. Of course, the first thing I did, open the trunk, make sure there's nothing loose in there first before I think about it any further. Nothing was loose in the trunk. Started paying a little closer attention to what I was seeing and feeling, and started noticing that the car would be moving around just a little bit over those bumps, more than it should. Now that's something that a lot of people absolutely wouldn't feel. I mean, a lot of people. Some people just won't notice those things. Other people are really sensitive to those things. And I just happen to be one of those people, which does help me to diagnose problems on cars. And I've been in the classic car world for the last 20 years, and I get people bring me cars all the time where, why don't you take it around the block, see what you feel, is it driving like it should? I take it around the block, maybe say, no, feels like you got a right front shock that's bad. And they're like, huh, how do you know? And I bounce the corner and it would bounce like crazy and say, yep, you got a bad right front shock. Now that also helped me a lot autocrossing too, because the more you can feel what the car is doing, the better you can adjust the car, or the better you can communicate to whoever's helping you tweak the car, which in my case was my dad back when I was doing that, because he was a real suspension guru. And I could communicate to him what it was doing, and we could make the car faster. But back to the car here. Now this other thing you can do to see if you got a bad strut or shock, this applies to anything. You can just take the car and bounce it. See what it does. Now in this case, you don't see a whole lot here. It is moving a hair more than it should, but it's not obvious. It is bouncing just a little bit more than that side is. So the noise, as I was hearing it, reminded me of what I would call a end play in a strut, or my dad always called end play in a strut, which we used to see not too uncommonly back in cars from the 80s and 90s, but it's not something that I've really heard of much on these newer cars. You would think the technology may have gotten better, and I don't really know. I've been, like I said, knee deep in the classic car world for the last 20 years. And the only time I work on this newer stuff is when it's my personal daily drivers or for friends of mine. So it's not something that I've actually heard of or seen. But let's get this car up in the air and we'll see what we got. So I got the car up in the air here, up in an area where I can get a hold of it here. You don't have to have it this high. You can do it other ways. It's just, this puts me at a good height to be able to do this easily. Lift up on the tire, but don't lift on it slowly. You want to lift up on it relatively quickly. And then, see how it goes up a little bit, and then it catches, and you hear that pop. So, yeah, we got a problem here. Now, I had this in the shop looking at it about 2 months ago, and I see nothing. Everything was dry, nothing was leaking. But I was also starting to see that the tire was just starting to not feel so smooth, starting to feather or cup just ever so slightly. And I've been starting to hear the tire making a little bit of noise since then, because yes, I have had the struts for 2 months and have not been able to get this car into the shop to actually do this job and get it fixed. So the tire has started making some noise since then. And yeah, because it's not controlling the tire as much, it can affect your tire wear. Not just alignments. Bad shocks can ruin your tires as well. So now, since I originally looked at this thing, we are starting to see some leakage here. That's what all this means here. The strut is starting to leak a little bit. So yes, it's definitely a bad strut. Now this car only has 80,000 miles on it, or actually a little under 80,000 miles. And you might think to yourself, wow, 80,000 miles and you already got bad strut on it? Yes, I do. Now, any car could have bad struts by 80,000 miles, but usually it'll take longer than that. But it also depends on where you drive. The county I live in, well, let's just say it's not the best roads in the world. I'm out in the country, so out in farm country here, the roads aren't, got a lot of undulations, it's not the smoothest in the world, but the county also doesn't keep up on them super well, and they don't do the greatest road work. When they have a pothole, it's like they take some disinterested high schoolers, throw them out there with a bag of that cold patch and a couple shovels, and they just kind of go whack it a couple times and go, yeah, good enough. Cars will beat it down, whatever. That's what it looks like. So yeah, the roads can get pretty rough around here at times, which means the suspension works a little harder, and you could end up needing to do shocks and struts sooner than if you lived in an area with smoother roads. So one of the annoying things about the newer cars and putting struts and stuff in them is the way they're built. And the newer they get, the harder they seem to be. You cannot access the strut bolts anywhere back here from the trunk area. You have to do it from the back seat, which means you got to pull the lever for the back seat, flip the back seat down, and take a bunch of trim pieces out to access it. So if you pull this forward, you see that there's a plastic panel right here you can actually access to get in there. A lot of cars won't even have this panel access, and you got to take this whole thing out. But then this is usually over top of this, and then these have to come out as well, and it can take a lot of time. So in this case though, we just need to take these out to be able to have full access in here. But in order to take these out, you got to start with the seat bottom. Now, right in here, there's a little clip here. If you reach under there, you can feel it, and it actually pulls out. Now, a lot of people take grab a pair of pliers or whatever. All you gotta do is just push down on the seat frame, pull out on it a little bit. It'll pop right loose, no problem whatsoever. See, it clicks in. Do that on the other side, and then there's a bolt down in here. If you pull this apart, you can see down in there. I'll get the camera and we'll show that. So if you pull this back here, you'll see a 10mm bolt down in there. We need to take that out. So we pull this down, get in here, and yes, if you're going to use something like this, you need a bit of a long ratchet because you need to start that thing loose. Like this. This one isn't quite strong enough to get it out of there. And there you go. So now that the back seat's out, this is how the clip actually works. You can see it just locks in there. Pretty simple, and the rear seat just snaps back into it. So then there's a 10mm bolt here, as well as the other side. Pull that forward, and then that comes off. You wouldn't necessarily have to pull this out. You could do this without doing it, I believe, but gets it out of the way. You don't get it all dirty working over it. And you can get in here, flex this down, get a screwdriver in here, and start popping this thing loose. You can also use a trim tool. Oop, there you go. And that gives us a little bit of access down here. Now, if you want more access, obviously you can take this whole thing out and you can have more room to work. So through this hole, you got access to get to the strut. Now that center bolt you don't want to take apart, it's just the outer two to get it loose from the top of this body structure. It's a good idea to always soak down all your bolts ahead of time. You know, before you even worry about taking the back seat out or any of that stuff. And especially the crustier yours is, the more miles it has on it, the longer you want to let everything soak so it comes apart. But before you actually go and buy the parts, make sure you know what submodel you have. Don't just walk in there and say, I have an Accord, you know, or give them your serial number. Most of them will look it up by serial number. But if you don't want to do it that way, like this thing here, it does not say anywhere on it what it is, what submodel it is. The title shows it, but there's no markings on the car anywhere. This one is an LXP, which means it's essentially just a base model with a slight upgrade. You know, it's one step above. And the lower models like this have 16-inch wheels, smaller brakes, or standard brakes, and standard suspension. The higher models, like the EXLs and stuff, will have 17-inch wheels, bigger brakes, and different suspension, more sporty suspension. So the struts, brakes, all that stuff are going to be different. So make sure you're getting the right parts for your car so you don't get in there and go, whoops, wrong stuff. Now, I have seen a number of different people telling you different ways of doing it. From, like, here you got a sway bar link here. A lot of people say take that loose. And some information will actually say for some reason to take your speed sensor here loose and everything. But I don't think you actually need to do none of that stuff. We'll find out here in a second, because the sway bar link here, as long as you're doing both sides, if you take both sides loose, then the sway bar shouldn't be a problem. If you want to do one side at a time, then yes, you will have to do the sway bar link. It should all drop down together as long as both sides are disconnected. So you should have a much longer sway bar than what I have here. My big one disappeared somewhere. I have not been able to find it. The only thing about this sway bar is, now that I'm looking at it, I think maybe the sway bar link might be in the way to put this down where you need it. It should still swing away, but yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and loosen it. And it appears that there are some slight variances depending on whether you've got the sport suspension or not and how the bracketry is done. This is how this one's done. So in order to take the sway bar link loose, you can get in there with a wrench, like I like a ratcheting wrench like this. You can do it with an impact generally, but depending on how rusty it is, it could fight you a lot. And you can put a Allen wrench in the end of this because it has a hole for an Allen wrench. And hold it with the Allen wrench while you loosen the nut. And depending on how rusty it is, this might go easy, it might not. One thing I will always say on this channel, and I keep reminding you guys, while I have a lot of experience working on cars, I may not always have the experience of a particular job on a particular model when I jump into it. But the only way you're going to learn is to jump into it. Both me and you alike. You just got to get in there, do the job, and find out. Now, it's a good idea to go ahead and take a wire brush to the threads of these things too. That can do a lot for you. Like this one here, everything's in pretty good condition. It was starting to not wanting to come loose. I went ahead and wire brushed it. Made a world of difference. Even though the threads look pretty decent. All right, you can just get back in there, pop that loose, get that out of the way, because that will give us the room to get the end of the strut down through here, right where that was at. With the bad selection of pry bars I got to work with, let's see what we can make happen. We just really basically need to get it to come down. I got one I think would really work well here. It's just way overkill because you need to push this down and you got all the bushings here keeping you from being able to do that. But let me go grab something else here. Okay, so I got my little pry bar, my big boy out. This is actually made from a cut down torsion bar from an old Chrysler. Gives me plenty of leverage to get this thing out of there. Watch you don't scratch the car up. There we go. And then, of course, like all the best manuals say, basically the reassembly is reverse of removal. Here's the struts I bought. These are the store brand from O'Reilly, and you might think, wow, you cheapened out. But no, I don't look at it as cheapening out. The way I look at it is, when I used to work there. And when I worked there, we had fewer warranty returns on these than we did the Monroes. So that's why I bought these. Now you don't want to mess with this center nut here if you don't know what you're doing. There's a lot of spring tension here that can come off there pretty hard and can hurt you. So do not mess with that. Come on. Ugh. Get that right. Get everything lined up here. There we go. Put the bolt through here, link back on, bolts up there. Repeat to the other side. And we're pretty much done with this other than putting the wheels back on it and the back seat back in it and all that stuff. Good thing about these, you don't actually have to have it realigned because it's not a strut where the knuckle is part of it. So that's a good thing. And just in case anybody's wondering, now that I've done the other side, rather than trying to squeeze this into here and do it that way, there is plenty of room. Just go ahead and put it here, and you don't have to worry about it being a real problem. It's so much easier to just do that. That's what I call learning from the other side. Winning! So yes, with a little bit of patience and some relatively basic tools, this is a job you can accomplish in your own garage or driveway. You do not need a lift to do this. Yes, a lift does make it a bit easier, but you could just jack up the back, put a couple jack stands under the back, and do it just the same. You just got to work on your knees and be a little less comfortable at it. But it is definitely doable in an afternoon.